Riverside Memorial Day services. It is so good to see so many of you here. This is my first Memorial Day without my mother-in-law, Kathleen Fairchild, Kitty Fairchild, to those of you lucky enough to have known her. She was a veteran of World War II, served in the British Royal Navy. She never missed attending a Riverside Memorial Day service. We lost Kitty in July of last year, though I am certain she is with us here today. As I talked with her last night about fixing the weather, she said she would talk to the Supreme Commander-in-Chief to see what could be done, though obviously I failed to specify that I wanted American weather rather than England weather. I suspect that I speak for all military here, current military and veterans, and their family and friends, when I say thank you for joining us as we remember our comrades in arms. Our brothers and sisters who paid the highest price in wartime and peace, and those veterans who no longer march with us in this life. At any given time in the last decade, less than 1% of the American population has been on active duty in the military. 23 million veterans in America today, but still that's less than 7% of the American population, and those folks, have never, most American population has never really been in uniform. So the result is a military that is far less connected with the rest of society. The conflicts and the warriors who fight those conflicts are really not part of most people's everyday lives. When we go to war, how we go to war, how we compensate our military, how we care for our wounded, how we treat our veterans when they come home. These decisions are being made by a society further and further removed from the warrior. I fear America does not know us, but by your presence here this morning, I am heartened that you appreciate what has been done for you and the lives that have been expended on your behalf. There is a sign-up sheet in the foyer, in the display area for veterans who are attending this morning. Please, if you could sign that. And if there are any active military in the audience, anyone serving since 9/11, any families who want the names of their loved ones in service read aloud, please make yourself known to me. I'll be in the back of the church for the remainder of the service. We want to recognize you later in the program. And now if I can bring on Tom Sisulak. Tom is the driving force behind these services this morning. He's the planner, the organizer, and the implementer. Tom.
Thank you very much, Greg. President Abraham Lincoln from the state of Illinois actually gave each of us an assignment or a duty. During a speech in 1863 on the Gettysburg battlefield, President Abraham Lincoln stated, quote, "It is up to the living to remember the sacrifices made by the men and women who died defending freedom." That's why we are here today, Memorial Day, to make special recognition, special honor to not only the 54 soldiers from Riverside who were killed in action over the past 90 years, but also to recognize all of the veterans here in Riverside, throughout the country. It is also our goal through this program to develop an entire family Memorial Day program and to also teach our young children the true meaning of Memorial Day. I would now like to invite Pastor Doug Asbury from the Riverside United Methodist Church to come up for our invocation.
Please join me in an attitude of prayer. God of all peoples, tribes, and nations, and our God, on this day of memorial, we pray for those who have given their lives in the service of our country, and for those who have served our nation both in time of battle and in time of peace. May perpetual light shine upon those who have served and have passed. May the good work which you began in them be brought to perfection, that this land may prosper and that there may be lasting peace throughout our world, the peace that passes understanding, that comes not through force of arms, but through the love of neighbor that comes from you. We also lift up this day all who currently serve in the armed forces of our nation. Protect and defend them in the time of war and in the time of peace. Grant that they may serve with honor and dignity both to your great glory and to the credit of their country. Grant that we may appreciate and treasure the freedom that is our gift and our heritage, and that we may never forget the great price at which it was purchased for us all. We ask also that you will watch over the veterans of this land, inspiring them to serve you and their country in ever new and creative ways. Comfort and heal all of our comrades, especially those who are ill and wounded as a result of their military service, and inspire and empower our nation to give them the just treatment they deserve. Lighten their burdens and those of their families, relieve their suffering and pain, and restore to them the blessings of health and well-being once more. Bless our time together here and our time of remembering after we separate. For we ask you this, Almighty Lord, in your holy name. Amen.
I would now like to invite the Riverside Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Brownie Scouts for their color guard entrance. And I believe there's a scout who's going to give the commands. Two ladies, they're right here.
Please stand for the presentation of colors. Scouts, attention. Color guard, attention. Color guard, advance. Scouts, salute. Color guard called.
Squeeze.
Will the audience please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. I would next like to introduce the soldiers from Riverside who have served in Iraq, Afghanistan. Also, according to present knowledge, we have one Riverside soldier who is on active duty, Brett J. Breska, Lance Corporal, United States Marines, served one tour of duty. He is in the United States now preparing for his second tour of duty. And perhaps his mother is here, Sue. Also, Bob Daniels, Lance Corporal, United States Marines, served in Iraq. Scott Lyons, United States Navy Medical Corps, was in Iraq and also two tours of duty in Afghanistan. Frank W. Gresek, United States Army, Command Sergeant Major. Frank is here. Frank can stand up. Frank was in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Peter Harris, United States Army Captain, was in Iraq, Afghanistan. David K. Melka, United States Marines, was in Iraq and also Afghanistan. Scott Lumsden, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Navy, was serving in Korea and also then in Iraq. Greg Saganich, he spoke earlier, and I believe he's in the back of the sanctuary. Greg Saganich, Staff Sergeant, United States Army in Iraq. Then he joined the United States Air Force and went to Afghanistan. U.S. Navy Commander Joseph E. Troiani. He is presently in Washington, D.C. with a special Memorial Day program. He is a psychiatrist working with the soldiers when they return with post-traumatic stress disorder. He has developed a lot of therapies. 2 cards I just received, and if Greg has any additional, he can bring those up. Max Campo, United States Army Specialist, 1 tour of duty in Afghanistan. He's with the Riverside Fire Department. And another new soldier returning, Mike Bertucci, United States Army Sergeant, was in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and he has just been hired to be a member of the Riverside Fire Department. Also, Ken Marinelli, United States Army, was wounded in action. Both of his parents are here. If they would stand up. If there are any other soldiers who have arrived and they would like to have their name announced, please find Greg Saganich and you can bring the card up to me. I also would like to introduce, hopefully she is here today, Mrs. Vicki Michaels, her late husband Jimmy Michaels, United States Marine at Iwo Jima, and she usually is here with her 4 daughters, Donna, Betty, Mary, and Sue.
Excuse me, Don. Here's Betty, there's Sue, Donna's over there. Our mothers aren't feeling well, must be the rain.
Well, thank you for being here. As many of you might remember the event where Jimmy Michaels was the Century Guard at the top of Mount Suribachi during the first very famous photograph. And if you've seen that picture, he is in the front right corner with the carbine rifle protecting the other Marines as they're raising the flag for the first time. Then the second photograph was taken, I believe, about an hour later.
You know, I told her that my husband, Joe Margaret, he was at Iwo Jima too, 19 years old. He survived.
Thank you, thank you. Any others? Next, I would like to have the Riverside Police officers, the fire department, and the EMT come forward. also our new village president, Ben Sills, if you would come up by these gentlemen. These men from the Riverside Police Department, Fire Department, EMT, are the first responders here in Riverside. We are quite fortunate. We have such a small village that if you do need to call 911, they're usually at your house within 2 or 3 minutes, maybe less. And several of these gentlemen are also veterans, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And we would like to congratulate them for their service and their assistance anytime citizens of Riverside are in need of their help. And we'd like to have President Ben Sills congratulate them. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, I would like to have you turn to the back page of the program where it lists the Riverside Honored World War II veterans. In 2009, when we started this program, Frank Sisolak, my father, was our oldest resident of Riverside, I believe, a 102-year-old Army veteran, was in Africa for 4 years, putting up hospitals in the desert. In 2010, we honored Jimmy Michaels, PFC, United States Marine at Iwo Jima. 2011, we honored John Liu, Captain, United States Army Air Corps, a pilot himself and also an instructor for new pilots. Last year we honored Dr. Marion Magalotti, Captain, medical doctor. He worked on the troop trains, which were here in the United States. So when the soldiers returned from overseas, usually they landed in New York, and then he actually was on the train with them from New York to Chicago, even to California, several trips taking care of their immediate needs right on the train. This year, we are very honored to recognize Donald R. Farnham, PFC, United States Marine Corps, was at Iwo Jima, and I would like to invite Don to come up. I also asked Donald Jr. to come up and introduce the rest of his family that are here today.
Thanks very much, everybody, for coming out today on this very important day of remembrance. I'm here today surrounded by friends and family to honor and to introduce a great father, a great American, the greatest man I've ever known, a Marine Corps veteran, Iwo Jima survivor, and just a wonderful, wonderful humanitarian person. My brother Dennis, my sister Molly, my sister Mary, numerous grandchildren, and a great-grandchild. I'd like to introduce my dad, Donald Farnham.
We have several other special guests to honor Don Farnham today. I would like the Riverside Village Presidents to come forward. Ben Sills, Michael Gorman. Jack Wyaduck. Paul Stack. Joe Di Natale. Also at this time, I'd like to have the Riverside Fire Department Honor Color Guard come forward. Thank you. You may be seated. Also today we're honored to have a special presentation by Mr. Bob Upuse, editor of the Landmark newspaper. Bob, if you'd come forward.
It's been customary in Riverside on Memorial Day in recent years to recognize a local veteran. Today, it's my honor to introduce Don Farnham, a veteran of World War II, a U.S. Marine who fought in the Pacific on Guam and Iwo Jima. I'm sure that many of you know Don, who is a longtime resident of Riverside. Many of you also likely know that Don's role as a local public servant for the better part of the last 17 years, ever since the late Dr. Bob Novak sought his help in forming a local access cable TV channel to document Riverside government in action. Don Farnham has been a public servant as a member of the Riverside Cable Commission. And at the age of 87, he also sees no reason to stop. He's just been reappointed to another 3-year term on the commission. Little did Don know, as a 17-year-old high school senior in Little Phoenix, New York, in 1943, that the next 3 years of his life would have a direct influence on his role as a Riverside public servant. After graduating from high school, Don enlisted in the U.S. Marines. And while he says he did so in order to have some control on where he would inevitably end up as a young man during wartime, Don was also following the example of his 4 older brothers, all of whom were already serving in the U.S. Army. Like Don, 3 of his brothers saw combat. 2 were wounded, including his brother Lynn, a B-17 flight engineer who was killed in action during a bombing mission over Germany in 1944, and whose sacrifice we honor and remember today. That year of 1944 was when Don saw his first combat as an 18-year-old private first class. He was among the first assault waves landing on Guam, which was one of the first Pacific islands captured by the Japanese in 1941. To this day, Don and his fellow Marines are honored in Guam every July 21st on Guam Liberation Day. In February 1945, Don landed on Iwo Jima, and for the better part of a month, witnessed that bitter battle and its brutality. While he didn't know it at the time, the Marine Corps was to play a pivotal role in shaping Don's post-war life. On Guam and on Iwo Jima, Don played a vital role in helping combat Marines by serving on the front lines as a forward observer for naval artillery. He was a radio man in a 5-man team that was part of the 3rd Joint Assault Signal Company. And during the critical early days of the invasion, before land-based artillery could be brought into play, the firepower provided by the U.S. Navy was of critical importance. And Don risked his own life on the front lines to help provide that firepower to his fellow Marines. Being a radio man meant that Don left the Marines with skill, one that he further developed with the help of the GI Bill. He attended the DeForest Training School in Chicago, and a few years later landed a radio job with ABC in Chicago. Within a few months, he became a cameraman for ABC's new local television station, and later became a technical director. In 1970, he was asked to join the camera crew for Monday Night Football, and worked many high-profile sporting events, including the Super Bowl, World Series, and 3 Olympic Games. He won 2 Emmy Awards for his camera work, the first in 1959, and the second for his work at the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. One of those Emmys sits proudly and safely high atop a cabinet in Don's Riverside living room. That skill with a TV camera and in TV production is what Don is helping instill in his teenage and adult charges who volunteer their time and spend their Monday and now Thursday nights filming Riverside Village Board meetings and documenting other important local events like this one. You could say that Riverside owes the Marine Corps a debt of thanks for giving Don the training and sense of duty that would translate into his public service here. And again, I'm proud to introduce this year's veteran, Don Farnham.
I'd like our village president, Ben Sills, to come forward. We have a special certificate.
Thank you, Tom. It is my great honor on behalf of the Village of Riverside to recognize a great American, a wonderful mentor to many of our young people with regard to the Cable Commission, and one of Riverside's great citizens. The Village of Riverside is honored to recognize PFC Donald Farnham for his military service during World War II in the United States Marine Corps. His devotion and dedication to the United States of America was vital in securing and preserving America's freedom. Don, thank you for all that you've done and all that you continue to do for our village.
I'd like to invite Command Sergeant Major Frank W. Gressick to come forward. We have a very special presentation to make, which we literally found out about this presentation and this honor just 30 minutes ago.
So can everybody hear me back there? So there's a saying that we have in the military, hurry up and wait, right? So you hurry up to get somewhere and then you wait for a very long time sometimes. Sometimes things move really, really rapidly. And in the case with Don, things moved very rapidly when he left the service. So I'm here to right a wrong that wasn't bestowed upon him when he left the military service. So what we have here is several medals and some campaign ribbons. Don never got these when he left. So One of them is a good conduct medal. The other two are campaign ribbons. He's got the sharpshooter award, but there's two things that y'all can't see right now at the very bottom of that. And one of those is from the sand from Red Beach in Guam. And the other one is sand from the Black Beach in Iwo.
I would like to thank all of you for coming here today. I'd particularly like to thank Tom Sisolak and the veterans from Post 488 for this honor that they bestowed on me. I'm humbled and eternally grateful. I accept this award of honor on behalf of those soldiers that died on the battlefield defending our country. They gave their futures so that we could have ours. They are the real heroes today and every day and every war, and we must make certain that they are never forgotten. Thank you.
Usually at this point in our program, when we have the Memorial Day ceremonies outdoors at Guthrie Park, we have the raising and lowering, and then remaining at half staff, the United States flag. And at this time, then I would like to invite the Boy Scout Troop 24 to present their colors. Their flags are already up in the front of the church. Next, I would like the twin sisters, Katie and Christine Manica from St. Mary's Parish, and their choir director, Michael Silhavy, to come forward. They're going to sing the national anthem for us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave?
Thank you, Katie and Christine. Next, I would like to invite Karen Lang, the Scout Leader for the Riverside Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, to come forward.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Karen Lang, and along with Kathy Loudon and Deb Gardner, we only do the Girl Scout troop, 4590. I wanted to take a couple minutes to do two things. One, to say how important this program is, not only for all you veterans and your families, but to all of those of us who have not served in the military. On Saturday morning, we as a family went to the gravesite of a wonderful patriot, Grandpa Jack Lang, who passed away on March 21st at 93 years of age. And our whole family was struck about how proud we were to see on his freshly laid stone that it said two things. It referred to his 2 Purple Hearts, which he received once from being shot in Italy, and then a second time in Africa. And also it mentioned his Bronze Star. The contributions, the fight for freedom, and the fact of the sacrifices, and the ultimate ones that all of those on the back of the program and many of your family and friends have given, we all who have not served in the military should be eternally grateful, and we very much appreciate it. Today, Tom asked me to say a couple of remarks with regard to the Scouts and what they're going to do in a couple of minutes. And I was very struck by the fact that the promise in law that we say at almost every meeting says, among other things, that on our honor, we will try to serve God and our country, to use resources wisely, and to make the world a better place. To all of you, you've done that. We cannot thank you enough. So now what I'm going to ask is Danielle Zigalich and Abigail Loudon. They're going to bring up several of the little girls, and we're going to take the flowers and place them on our makeshift memorial. As many of you might recall, in Guthrie Park, there are memorial stones. They start with what, when everyone laid it, hoped would be the only stone of the World War, and go through all those conflicts for which those men and women of our town have served, including a Blue Star. So this presentation is for those stones on Guthrie Park. Thank you, ladies. In addition, the Daisies, Cub Scouts, Junior Scouts, Boy Scouts, Brownies, Girl Scouts, Ambassadors, and Cadet Scouts have made cards for those of you who have served in the military and spouses of them. These handmade cards are not enough, but they're a token of our appreciation. So I'd ask everyone to please raise your hand, and the Girl Scouts will bring those cards and distribute them amongst all of you. So please raise your hand so that we know who has served in the military. While our Scouts are passing out these cards, I would like to say the other hat I wear is as president of the Girl Scout Board for the geography of our council, which is about 84,000 Scouts. Having looked at the promise in law, I would like to say that the most Scout-like of all of us are all you veterans in the audience. So today, Memorial Day, I'd like to make you honorary Boy and Girl Scouts and to thank you for your service.
While the Scouts are handing out cards, I'd like to ask our new village president, Ben Sills, to come forward.
morning, everyone. I'd first like to thank Pastor Asbury and the United Methodist Church for giving us a home on this rainy Memorial Day morning. And of course to Tom Sisolak and the many volunteers that have made this morning possible. And a special welcome and thank you to our veterans and those of you in military service and your families who are joining us. And of course, my friend Don Farnham, whose humility in accepting this award just shows the kind of greatness of character we have come to expect from him over these many years. Many of you here today have felt the heartache of losing a friend or loved one who was in military service to our nation. But as Staff Sergeant Saganich mentioned, for the vast majority of Americans, it is increasingly unlikely for them to have direct contact with the loss of an American soldier or sailor. As we meet here this morning, only about 1% of Americans serve in the United States military. In the last 30 years, 14,000 Americans have lost their lives while in military service around the globe. This is a stark and a sobering number. But compare this to roughly the same length of time of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, when the roll of the fallen exceeded 500,000. During that time, it would have been difficult to find an individual or a family not directly impacted by the tragedies of war. Today, for many Americans, our connections with those lost in the name of country are more distant. A name etched in stone, a white marble cross on a silent field, a purple heart in a drawer passed down through family tradition. So the question for us is, how do we properly memorialize the fallen in the absence of direct memory? How do we honor the extraordinary gifts that they gave to us when we might not remember them in their ordinary roles as husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, friends and family? There is an old meaning of the word memoria that can help. In ancient times, memoria was not considered a thing of the past, but rather inhered in the present. In modern language, we might use words like mindfulness or thoughtfulness. When Faulkner wrote, "The past is never dead," it's not even past. It was this old way of remembering that he was speaking of. Most of life is ordinary. We do our work, we raise our families, we jostle with our friends. It has always been so. And it is against this backdrop of the ordinary and the everyday that the sacrifices we honor here stand out as exceptional. So my suggestion is this. Today, as we rightly pause for special remembrance of those who gave the last full measure so that we may be free, do we have it within us to carry them forward in our daily lives by being aware of the exceptional that exists within the ordinary? To stand against injustice, to demand tolerance, to practice forbearance, to protect the weak. We have such opportunities all the time. And when we rise to their call, we remember the fallen. They might not have known us, and yet they died for us. Can we follow their example in smaller measure by sacrificing for others that we know not? Charity and courage go together. That is the legacy of those names etched in stone, and the lasting purpose of their blood in the ground. And so to the fallen, we say, we will remember you, even though we did not know you. Your faces may not appear to our mind's eye. Your voices may not resonate within our dreams, but we remember what you did. We will not leave you behind, but we will keep you with us always, giving life to your enduring example through our own daily acts of charity and of courage. May God bless those whom our nation has lost and grant solace to their families and friends who have also given so much. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Village President Ben Seltz. The St. Mary's School Student Choir will now come forward with their choir director, Lisa Weiss Cornelius. I would now like to invite the new Riverside American Legion Commander, Richard A. Dolish, United States Army Special Agent, to come forward.
Thank you very much. This Memorial Day is dedicated to the memory of Americans who gave their lives in the service of America, and their sacrifice ensures our freedom to do what we please, to go where we wish, to choose opportunity and work hard to seek success. To appreciate our veterans and our country, I call that patriotism. Several years ago, I visited the grave of my brother, Edward. He was killed in the Second World War at Normandy, France. And although it was a sad occasion, it made me realize that there are 19 graveyards throughout Europe, 19 graveyards with American boys, 10,000 in that particular graveyard, who gave their lives not only to protect America and our freedoms, but also who restored freedom for most of Europe nations. The same thing in the Punch Bowl in Hawaii. It's a military cemetery with over 400,000 Americans who fought and defeated Japan and restored freedom to the Philippines, to China, and Indonesia. Our boys not only died for us, they died for others. We fought, we defeated the enemy, then we rebuilt their countries and we restored freedom. America is not perfect, but there's no other country that fights and dies for freedom like America. Don't allow anyone ever to diminish the greatness of America. Be proud of your country and cherish the memory of our military who died to provide that for the world. Veterans died and they allow you that right. God bless America.
Thank you, Commander Dolish. Now we will begin the reading of the Riverside 54 soldiers from Riverside who were killed in action during World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I would also like to ask Eagle Scout Joseph Rogers to come forward. Joseph Rogers is going to ring the naval bell after each page of names has been read. The vast majority of these 54 young soldiers were Riverside High School graduates. Many of them joined the service right after graduating. So the names that you see on the stones by the flagpole in Guthrie Park honor these Riverside 54. Sergeant Greg Saganich will read the first list.
From World War I, Albert Edward Moore, James P. Quinn, Reverend Hedley Heber Cooper. From World War II, Donald Arthur Abel, Richard K. Babbitt, Bruce O. Bigger, Otto C. Bleckschmidt, George D. Bohati, David C. Bowman, Paul Brennan.
Pastor Scott Jansen from the Riverside Presbyterian Church.
Curtis Moran, Mark W. Castle, James F. Ekman, Trevor A. Edward, Robert W. Eggleston, Robert H. Fenley, James H. Green, Arno M. Hess, James H. Hosegood, John J. Janovic.
Pastor Dennis Loretz in St. Peter and Paul Lutheran Church.
Richard Yichka, Bert T. Kruger, Francis J. Lestina, Robert A. Lazati, Donald C. Lundgren, Robert H. McFarland, Palmer C. McDonald, Frank J. Mansell, Harry P. Martini, Thomas McHugh.
Father Thomas May, St. Mary Parish.
Jerry G. Mikan, Harold C. Miller, William Munson, William Oldacre Jr., Keith A. Orsinger, Francis P. Parker, George S. Proxa, Richard Rogers, John Rukas, John N.D. Smith.
Command Sergeant Major Frank Kressig.
Thomas R. Schluter, Edward Spritzma, Jack E. Thatcher, Graham Trevor, Elmer Ulich, John T. Warner, Merle F. Wolf.
The final list, Pastor Doug Asbury, United Methodist Church.
From the Korean War, James J. Anderle Jr., David M. Barrett, Edward V. Hladick, William Leonard, Edward Clark Sachs, and from the Vietnam War, John W. Bezichny and Donald Pratt.
I would now like to invite Command Sergeant Major Frank Kressig to come forward again, Katie Sordell as well, and our Eagle Scout is already present. Our special wreath was handcrafted by Kay Sordell with vines and flowers. This is a special Navy tradition where Navy soldiers, U.S. Marines, if they select to be buried at sea, if they are killed in action, in battles throughout the world, this is to symbolize their service to America for the killed in action, missing in action, as well as POW. The wreath will be placed in the Des Plaines River shortly after the program. If everyone would please rise for the 21-gun salute, which will begin shortly.
Before I pronounce the benediction, I want to make you aware that if you go out this door or out that door and down the stairs, several churches of the Covenant of Churches are providing refreshments following this ceremony. Those of you who wish to may follow the wreath as it is taken down and placed on the displaying service as well. So we thank you all for being here and pray that God will bless you. O God, grant to the living grace, to the departed rest, to the world peace and concord, to all your people the promise of everlasting life, light to guide us on our way, courage to support us, and your blessing to unite us in service to you, our God, and to our fellow human beings of every race, tribe, and nation. Amen.
The Riverside Scouts
We'll now have the exit of colors. Thank you all for attending, and thank you for honoring our soldiers killed in action throughout the United States of America.
Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors. Scouts, attention. Color guard, attention. Color guard, advance. Color guard, halt. Color guard, retrieve the colors. Scouts, salute. Color guard, forward. Color guard dismissed.